Joy, is that you calling in?
Yes,
Okay, perfect.
thank you. And then I kept my computer muted.
Perfect.
Thank
We'll
you.
get you down.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to mute myself now.
Perfect.
Hello.
Hey, Eric.
Hey, Mary Michael. How are you?
Good. We can hear you. Sounds good.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep. Director Oliveira, did you just join?
Yes, I just joined.
Great. We can hear you. You're unmuted on our end, so you can mute yourself on your end as needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Hey, did someone else just join us from the MCAG line?
This is Ty. I plan on listening in.
Perfect. We've got you down. Thank you, Ty.
Thank you.
Hi, Stacy. Can we test your mic?
Good afternoon, everybody.
Hello. Great. We can hear you. Thank you.
Mary Michael, can you hear me? This is Stacy.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
You sound good.
Sorry, right after I spoke up the last time, I got a message that I was being logged out. So I just want to make sure I was still okay.
Oh, no, you're good. Hi, Kyle. Can we check your mic?
Yes, I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you. We can
Great.
hear you.
Wonderful.
Hi, Emily. Can we check your mic?
Yep, I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Hi there. Did someone just join with the 667 number? A number that
Yes.
ends in 667?
Just listening in.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Christine. Can we check your mic?
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. We can hear you.
Hello?
Good afternoon, Director Pereira. We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Matt, can we do a check for your mic?
Yeah, hi, this is Matt.
Great, we can hear you. Perfect, thanks. Hi, the number just ending with 366. Director Aguilar, we see you've just joined. Can we check your mic?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Good afternoon, thank you. We can hear you. Good afternoon, Director McDaniel. We've unmuted
Hello.
you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Fine, thanks. We have a phone number ending in 608.
Hey, Michael, that's me, Nav.
Hi, Nav. Thank you. We can hear you. And
Nav.
Director
How you doing? Rodrigo on the line.
Hi, Director Espinoza. Thank you. We can hear you.
Thank you.
Number ending in 366 just called in. Is that a member of the committee?
Yeah, I think that's just Director Silvera.
Hi, we can hear you. Thank you. And Director Lohr, we're unmuting you. Can we test your mic?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. And Director Murphy.
Yep, I'm here.
Good afternoon. Thank you.
Mary Michael, are there other directors that we are waiting for?
We have, let's see, we know Director Creighton is unable to be here. We're only waiting for Directors Hoag and Villalta. I'm not sure. Joy, do you know if they RSVP'd?
Director Hope did.
Okay.
And this is Stacy. I spoke with Director Villalta earlier today, and he made no indication that he wasn't going to be on the call.
All right, well, let's give it a few more minutes then.
There's a phone number ending in 719 that just dialed in. Is that a member of the board? Okay, that number dropped off.
Mary, Michael, I'm switching laptops, so so my internet connection is more stable. I'm gonna log off of this one, okay?
Okay, we'll look out for you. Director Villalta, can we check your mic?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Good afternoon. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chair, that leaves only Director Hoag that we are missing, and I'll attempt to reach her on her cell phone.
Okay, that'd be great. Well, everyone, welcome to the July board meeting of the MCAG. This is Lloyd Pereira. Your chair, Paul Creighton, had I guess I'm told, a family emergency and will not be here today. So I will try to do my best to make it through the agenda and serve you well. At this point, could we get the roll call taken, please?
Director Aguilar,
Here.
Director Espinoza,
Here.
Director Hoag,
Here.
Director Lohr,
Here.
Director McDaniel,
Present.
Director Murphy,
I'm here.
I'm sorry, thank you. Director Oliveira,
Here.
Director Pereira,
Here.
Director Silvera,
Present.
Director Villalta,
Here.
Director Creighton. Thank you, and we do have a quorum.
All right, thank you very much. So we'll move to approval of the agenda. Stacy, are there any corrections?
Yeah, in the minutes, please show that I was absent and Nagy was.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Director Oliveira. That was the one comment I wanted to make on the minutes, is that in the closed session minutes, it indicates that Mayor Nagy was participating on behalf of Gustine, but not in the regular meeting minutes. So we'll make those corrections. As for the agenda, I have no recommended changes.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Lee, so moved.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Silvera, second.
Who was the second?
Go with Silvera.
Okay, thank you. Are there any public comment at this time? Nope. Okay. Any other discussion amongst board members? I'll call for the vote. All
Director
those-
Aguilar,
We'll do it by roll call.
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Yes.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Yes.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you very much. At this time, we will take public comment. Mary or Stacy, do we have any public comment showing?
We received no public comment by the deadline.
All right.
Mr. Chair, this is Stacy. If I could, I would like to use this opportunity to make a remark, if you would mind.
I would love for you to make that remark.
Thank you. And you get to.
Mr. McDaniel, or Director McDaniel, would you please stand?
Sure.
Can everyone see me?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, now we see Lee.
Now
Good to
it's
see
Lee.
everybody.
Now it's me.
I just wanted to take a moment to recognize Director McDaniel for his term as chairperson for fiscal year 1920. In normal circumstances, I'd be able to hand this to you, Director McDaniel, shake your hand, take a picture, say thank you. But like everything else, we're figuring out ways to do our job. So On behalf of the governing board and staff, I'd like to virtually present you with this, let's see if I'll get out of the way, this plaque that reads, in appreciation of your leadership, dedication, and service as chair of the MCAG governing board for July 2019 to June 2020. So thank you very much. I will make sure this gets dropped off to the county office, if not later today, tomorrow. So thank you very much for your service.
Well, thank you very much.
Director McDaniel, would you like to say anything?
Sure. It was as you know, we're all experiencing a very challenging time now, and it's been a big challenge of doing all of our meetings virtually, but I appreciate the coordination, especially by staff and our council, to make it possible for us to do it. And I appreciate everything else and working with these directors and trying to move MCAG forward. We've put together a lot of really big projects this past year, or at least put funding patterns in place. And it was very exciting to be a part of that and to help move that forward. And I appreciate the help of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you again. Appreciate your service. Any other public comment? No. So we had one correction to the minutes. Are there any more corrections? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved, Olivera.
Second, McDaniel.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Oh, we got a roll call.
Oh, yeah.
Roll call, please. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
I've had it.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. We'll move to item 5, Citizens Advisory Report.
And Mr. Chair, this is Stacy again. We have, or I hope we do. I understand that Ursula Stock is participating in the meeting to provide the CAC update.
Okay, please go ahead.
Assuming, Mary Michael, that do we have her on the line?
We have a couple phone numbers that we don't know who they are. We've unmuted them. So I'm not sure if the, Ursula, are you on the line?
Good afternoon. This is Gregoria Ponce, Caltrans District 10.
Great, thank you. We have, so that's one of the phone numbers. There's also a number ending in 82. Is that Ursula? It doesn't appear she's on the line.
Okay. Well, can you scroll the agenda on the screen, please?
Yes.
All right. Well, we'll leave item 5, and if Ursula joins us later in the meeting, please let us know and we'll get her report. Okay, item 6, JPA for Merced County monthly update. Oh no, TJPA. All right, transportation. Christine?
Hi, good afternoon. Let's see, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
And my face? Okay, so I have the Transit Joint Powers Authority for Merced County monthly update to share with you guys. We continue to be pretty busy. Transit is free throughout the county at this time, and we are closely monitoring ridership to ensure that we are not overcrowding buses and making sure that we're operating as safely as possible. We really stepped up our marketing to make sure that passengers know what to expect when riding the bus and make sure that they're practicing safety every day. So looking at our ridership, we have seen a pretty dramatic decrease over last year. Let me move this. So we have seen about a 41% decrease on fixed route ridership over the previous fiscal year. And since we are offering free rides, we continue to keep them just as one lump type of passenger. We don't keep track by the fare type because there are no fares. When you compare a bar graph of our ridership, you see the 18-19 fiscal year in blue and 19-20 in orange. You can see we're pretty far below what we were last year, but you can see from April to June, we've started to trend upward in ridership. On the paratransit side of things, ridership continues to be pretty drastically decreased at 77.54% less than last year. And that is not surprising considering the number of day programs and various social service programs that are currently not operating. And when you look at the associated bar graph, you can see that the ridership is even more of a decrease than it was over in fixed route. So on the operations and maintenance side of things, First Transit is getting settled in. They're about 85% complete with all of the turnover repairs that they needed to make. Some things that are outstanding are bodywork and some suspension. We're working to get those resolved rather quickly, but with bodywork, it takes time, especially considering you have to take the vehicles off site because we do not do in-house bodywork. We are making sure that the buses are sanitized every day. They are wiped down every single loop in high-touch surface areas, and trying to keep our passengers and operators as safe as possible. And the sign's a little grainy, but there's a sign out front of the office, in front of the facility, that says, "Through these doors pass the best operators in the industry." And according to the CDC recommendation and state mandate, we are now requiring masks on board our buses. We are working on a reasonable accommodation for those with health concerns that are not able to ride with a mask, so that we are very clear as to the requirements for riding and those that are exempt from doing so. So these are just samples of some of the marketing materials that we've been providing to our customers. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you very much.
Anybody have any questions or discussion?
Any questions for Christine? Nope. Okay. Then we will move to item 7, Caltrans report.
And Mr. Chair, this is Stacy. I believe we have Gregoria Pounce on the line.
Okay.
From Caltrans District 10.
Welcome, Gregoria.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Honored to be here. I do have a few items, so I will just jump right in. I'm Gregoria Ponce. I'm the District 10 Acting Deputy District Director of Planning, Local Assistance, and Environmental. The past role, as you know, was held by Ken. So I will now be responsible for the activities relating to district planning, local assistance, and environmental for the time being. So with that said, I'll continue on my next item. I wanted to share with you guys the State Route 140 Ferguson project. I recognize that 140 serves yards and connects Merced to Yosemite, so it is an important route, you know, being in Mariposa. So the innovative Ferguson slide segmentally launched rockshed design. The issue was solved by partnering with our construction manager, general contractor, prime contractor on safe methods to remove the talus rock and build a $232 million project feature on the key route. It's a 700-foot structure. It'll be built outside of the rockfall zone, and it'll create a worker protective cover as each of the 17 segments is launched into place. It'll enhance the unique State Route 140 and may very well become an iconic signature structure welcoming visitors from around the world. I thought it was important to share that. Moving from there, Caltrans has released its Active Transportation Action Plan, highlighting continued measures we're taking to improve walking, bicycling, and transit options statewide. We think it represents innovative solutions for reducing dependence on driving, over connecting communities divided by freeways and roads. This emphasis on equity and multimodality go hand in hand with our Transportation for All philosophy, and looking to build and maintain a facility that works for everyone. As far as the State Route 152 Safety Task Force meetings, those are ongoing. The Pioneer Road Expansion Project, there was a kickoff meeting with the city and the consultant last week for this project. So that is moving forward. The State Route 152 11th Street project, that is on task. The State Route 165 Hillmark Safety Task Force meetings are ongoing, and it appears that one is scheduled for July 27th via WebEx. And we look forward to that. And the last item I have is I wanted to share that after 32 years of state service, our District 10 Director, Dan McElhaney, will be retiring from Caltrans on July 31st. Dan will also be starting a new role in August, which is a great opportunity for him and his family, and we're very excited for him. Oh, the Caltrans Division of Rail and Mass Transit, Caltrans, we've diligently been working on distributing the first round of CARES Act funding for the FTA 5311 and 5311F subrecipients. We're now announcing the CARES Act FTA 5311 Projects 2020 for the second round of FTA CARES Act funds. Tentatively for Merced, there's $1.143 million available for its region. And we want to thank you for all you do to keep transit running during these difficult times. It's very much appreciated. We're very excited to see that Merced County was successful in the planning grant for the Franklin Beechwood Interconnectivity Plan. And we look forward to working with our partners and having this too become a successful grant. Other than that, that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, are there any questions or comments from the directors?
I see no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
All right, well, thank you for that report. That was very thorough and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, we will move on to item 8. Let's see, the newsletter, calendar of meetings, conferences. Go ahead, Stacy. Do you have anything?
Nope, nothing here. These are all just for information. We're happy to speak to any of them. If any director has questions, I will just point to the Measure B allocation report that I also sent out in my executive director report last week. I think we had skipped a quarter, but so I just wanted to draw your attention to that. It shows the progress of our measure revenue over, I think since its inception actually. But I did just want to just kind of put a pin in that we'll be expanding more on kind of looking ahead with Measure V with the board through a presentation in the coming months. But other than that, these are, we're happy to speak to any of them if the board has any questions.
Okay, does anybody have questions?
There are no hands raised.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to item 9, the consent agenda.
And Mr. Chair, I'll add that these 3 are very routine items. Again, we can speak to them individually, or the board can adopt them in all 3 of them in one action.
Daniel, move.
Or second?
All right, any discussion? Any questions from other directors? Okay.
I see no hands raised.
Oh, no hands raised?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
All right, would you please call for the roll or call for the vote?
Thank you. Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hoag,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, we'll move on to item 10, transportation planning and Measure V update. This is for information only. Mr. Matt Fell.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the board. A few things to update you on. One is the West Side commuter bus study is underway. The consultant is gathering data and they've put together their first draft product, which is looking at the transit systems mostly over in the Bay Area. And then the data that they're looking at, the streetlight data, is cell phone based data that has origin and destination information from communities in Merced County over to the Bay Area, actually everywhere. So they're going to be crunching a lot of numbers, and then they'll be doing outreach will be the next phase. And you'll hear more about that in the coming months. On revenue, I just wanted to mention, you know, everybody is seeing varying levels of revenue declines in varying fields. And just to let you know, LTF is an item later on the agenda, but it looks like there's an estimate of a decline there. And then also Measure B, we're expecting a decline, but we don't know what that's going to be. But we are tracking that, and we'll keep you updated as we learn more. High Speed Rail Authority, you may have heard that they were planning on adopting their business plan by now, but that has been postponed to December. So the legislature and the administration and High Speed Rail Authority want to talk about that business plan some more. And that's the business plan that identifies Merced to Bakersfield as the initial operating segment. So that's a very important business plan and has received a lot of support from this area, City of Merced, and all of the North Valley rail supporters. And then two things on the federal level. So normally about this time we do a federal transportation improvement program that's being postponed to next spring. So you'll hear more about that as we prepare the draft in a few months later. And then also at the federal level, there's been talk about transportation bills. So the authorization bill, the FAST Act, expires in September. And sometimes they pass a new bill and sometimes they pass an extension. It's looking more and more like there'll be an extension, which is not that uncommon in an election year, that there's an extension instead of a new bill. And then they're also talking about appropriation and potentially some sort of stimulus. So we're keeping an eye on that as well. That's my update. If you had any questions, I could answer those for you.
Does anybody have their hand raised?
There are no hands raised.
All right, thank you for that report, Matt. Let's please stay at the podium. We'll move to number 11, approve delegation of authority to the executive director to approve claims for state transit assistance and state of good repair funding.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. So on the consent agenda, items 9A and B, I think they were STA, state transit assistance, and SGR, state of good repair claim forms, and those come to you quarterly, and this action would delegate approval of those claims to the executive director. So it's always a routine thing. There's two transit agencies, TJPA and YARTS, that get these funds, and so that would just make it one less item on the, or two less items on the agenda.
Okay. Any questions of Matt?
There are no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Um, what is the pleasure of the board?
Laura, move to approve.
Olivera, second.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All right, if not, please call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
All right, thank you for that. We will move to item 12, fiscal year 2021 local or LTF apportionment. Matt Fell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. Local transportation fund is derived from a quarter-cent sales tax, and it's per the state law Transportation Development Act. It's intended for transit uses first, and the COVID impacts on sales tax. The county auditor prepares an estimate, and they're estimating a 25% reduction in the LTF. And if the actual revenues are different, that gets reconciled in the next estimate. So if there's a bigger reduction or if there's less of a reduction, that will get reconciled next year. And transit actually needs, their claim is $1.4 million less than it was last year. And that is because of the CARES Act funding that was mentioned previously. If it were not for the CARES Act funding, then there would not even be enough LTF for the transit needs. But simply because of the CARES Act funding, the transit needs less this year. And so based on that transit claim and the other claims as identified in the staff report, there's the administrative costs, the transit needs, the YART's $300,000 is their request, which is the same as it has been. And for passenger rail, we have the 5% of the total, which is the same as last year. And after all those, there would be $279,000 left to distribute to the jurisdictions based on population. And so the requested action is to adopt a resolution adopting the LTF apportionment schedule and distribute those claim forms. And if you have any questions, I could answer those for you.
All right, are there any questions? Anybody have their hand raised?
Motion to approve, Villalta.
Laura,
Okay.
second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion?
Chair, a quick question for Matt. This is Silvera. Matt, how much money is currently, and I'm sorry I didn't ask you this sooner and put you on the spot, but how much money is currently in that reserve for future passenger rail? If it's 5% every year, how long have we been doing it and how much is in there?
Yeah, this is the third year. The first year, I don't think it was exactly 5%, but if I recall, it was 300,000 or maybe 400,000. And last year was 5%, which was 300 and something thousand. So almost $1 million. I can definitely get you that information and send it out.
If you could, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Will do.
When you do that, Matt, you'll send it to everybody?
Sure.
All right, thank you. Pleasure of the board. Is there a motion?
Move to approve, Olivera.
Laura, second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Please call the roll.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
C.
Director
Yes.
Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for that. We'll move to item 13, adopt FTIP Amendment 18, Matt Fell, action item.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the board. In April, the board adopted some additional CMAQ congestion mitigation air quality policy and a release for call for projects. So we did that, and we received 10 applications from the jurisdictions. And the CMAQ scoring committee was convened, and that consists of the jurisdictions as well as MCAG and Caltrans. Thank you to Caltrans for participating in that committee. And the committee's recommendation is included in your packet. And it basically is funding for all 10 projects that were submitted. Some get full funding of PE and construction, and then a few get the PE to start the project, and then they can, once they're ready, they can come back and ask for the construction funding. And to let you know that we are planning on doing another CMAQ call for projects next spring around the same time as the FTIP, the next FTIP. So there will be an additional call for projects as additional federal years are added to the FTIP. So that was the committee's recommendation. And then this FTIP amendment number 18 also includes some adjustments to the projects and programming FTA 5339 and a little bit of STA. So the requested action is to adopt this amendment and program these projects. And if you have any questions, I can answer those.
Right, are there any questions for Matt?
There are no hands raised.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve?
Laura, move to approve.
Second, Olivera.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. There's no public comment, right, at this time?
There's no public comment.
Okay. Will there be any more public comment or at the beginning of the meeting because of the Zoom?
No, we did not receive any public comment by email or by voicemail by the noon deadline. Actually, none since then either.
Okay, thank you. Please call the roll.
Director Aguilar.
Yes.
Director Espinoza.
Yes.
Director Hogue.
Yes.
Director Lohr.
Yes.
Director McDaniel.
Aye.
Director Murphy.
Yes.
Director Oliveira.
Aye.
Director Silvera.
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you for that. We'll move to item 14, MCAG's other budget, NAV Baggery.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so this item is MCAG other programs. MCAG is a metropolitan organization. MCAG also oversees and manages other programs that are part of this, a part of the MCAG umbrella. Other programs that are other programs that are in this budget are pass-through costs that MCAG will bill various agencies or programs under the MCAG program. The following programs are identified in MCAG other programs. The newest one is the housing planning support. Is a new program that was just adopted by this agency this year that aims to address the increase in housing needs in the Valley. Assembly Bill 101 established that the local government planning support and grant program, which the California Department of Housing and Community Development administers. We also administer the One Voice program, which is to advocate federal programs and policies of the region significant to Merced County. MCG also provides oversight, management, and staffing to oversee the day-to-day operations related to TJPA, yards, and RWA. These are pass-through costs that has already been approved by this board last month for TJPA and RWA. The Yards Board took action on these pass-through costs back in April of 2020. For this year, proposed other programs budget is 96% of the expenditure are staff and our salaries and benefits that are shared along with indirect costs. The remaining 4% is direct services and materials. The overall increase is $94,000 from the previous years, and that's due to salaries and benefits. Any questions?
All right, any questions for
I
Nav?
got a question, Chair. This is Silvera.
Yes, go ahead.
Nav, you said, I'm trying to find it in here, but it was a one voice trip.
Yes.
Do we think we're going to have one of those?
I can take that question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, this is Stacy. You know, that's going to be the decision of the board. We typically bring that question to the board around September, October. I would recommend this year we probably will wait a little longer to see how that goes. But it's in the budget in the event that the board does want to have one. I also know that some of our partners are looking at basically keeping the program and doing a lot of the regional coordination, but not physically traveling to Washington, instead doing virtual meetings and other types of advocacy. And I think it's also important to note that we do have our lobbyist on contract that also comes out of this budget. So the short answer is it'll be the board's decision of whether or not to pursue a trip. Which would obviously then reflect a reduction in this budget item.
In either one of you guys, so when you look at the amendment number 2 on this 1920, it's only at 12,569. Is that amended reflect that because we actually didn't go?
Correct.
Very good. Thank you.
And also, when we didn't, once we knew we weren't going, we worked with the contracted lobbyist to amend what they were paid for their contract, essentially. So that was also a cost savings.
Okay, any other questions?
There are no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
All right. Is there a motion to approve the budget?
Laura, move to approve.
Silvera, second.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
Yes.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
Aye.
Director Villalta.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Well, thank you very much. We'll move to item 15, Merced County Regional Waste Management Authority monthly update. Eric Zetz. Hello, Eric.
Hello, Mr. Chair. Hello, board members. Welcome. Happy July to you. And I've got an update for you. Let me pull it up here. And we're off. Okay, so updates I'm going to be providing you all with is going to be the tonnage reports for June. I've got some good information for you. We'll give you a little bit of update on the Highway 59 scale addition project. Update you on the scale addition project at Billy Wright. Give you some updates on the anaerobic digester for Billy Wright. Update you on Billy Wright expansion, the 200 acres that the board approved last month. And then something I just, right before this call, included that I thought would be something useful for you all is some CARES Act funding as it relates to collections in the solid waste industry. So for the tonnage reports for the month of June, you can see that we have overall received an 11% increase in tonnages received at both sites. Highway 59 saw the greatest amount of increase by 16%. Nationally, we are seeing residential populations contribute greatly to landfills in the order of 40% of the material that's being disposed at landfills. So the residential population has really increased here, but it is a welcome sight. You'll notice that the 11% increase, or the 41,733 number on the very top right, which is indicative of both sites' overall tonnages, is the highest in a 5-year period for the month of June. This comes to you the prior 2 months of last month was a 22% decline, and then before that a 28% decline. So we are happy to see this. The Highway 59 Scale Addition project is moving forward. If you've been to the site, there have been some eucalyptus trees that have been removed. Matter of fact, yesterday there was some more trees that were removed. We're currently right now waiting upon PG&E and AT&T to approve some permits before we can go forward, but we expect that to be resolved here by next week. Project end is completed, anticipated to be completed in the middle of October, and so we're hopeful this project will add to the circulation element. For the Billy Wright Scale Addition, the RFP for this is scheduled to go out here this month, and so we are hopeful that this will go forward. We right now are working on specs and plans, and also PG&E tie-ins for different services on the scale house that's there. But again, the RFP will go out in July. The anaerobic digester, we are currently working with the contractor. We had hoped to have the cost information for this facility to you in this month. The contractors told us they need a little bit more time. So we are looking to hopefully bring this back to you next month, but we hope to have a pro forma and some cost merits for the project for you to consider. The next step for us is to bring a contract to you. So we hope to do that. The Billy Wright expansion.
Question really quick for Eric, Chair. This is Silvera.
Go ahead, Scott.
Eric, so I guess I know we had some type of approval at the last meeting, but what is the reason why they're getting rid of it? I guess I never asked that question. Why is it available now? Is it something that they outgrew, or is it something that is proven not useful for them?
Yeah, it's the outgrow and not useful. Monterey has not been using it for a period of over a year now because their capacity has exceeded the capacity that this facility can take in. And so they went and built a new facility. And so this facility has been dormant. And the challenge for most is that it's able to process up to 8,000 tons a year. And there are some in the industry that are looking to absorb 20 and 30,000 tons. So a smaller machine is very, very difficult to use.
Okay, so it's not that it wasn't working well for them. It's just that they outgrew it and built a bigger facility?
Correct.
And how long was it operational for them?
I'd have to look into that. I want to say it was more than 5 years, but I'd have to look into it. It's been on that site for quite a number of years, but I can find that out and get that information back to you.
And then the other question is I believe in the last meeting, what we approved was the actual cost to move it here. Is that correct?
No, what you approved was us to continue conversations. If at last meeting you guys decided to not continue those conversations, staff would have stopped. But you continued, you authorized staff to continue conversations to come back with a contract of what this would look like. You have not approved a contract for this facility to come to the site just yet. That will come.
And just so that I understand, again, is that this would be a lease, right? This is somebody else that would be operating this. We're not buying that facility. We're just leasing it.
That's the expectation because that's what they did in Monterey. But until we get into the contract and the terms of that contract, I'm not sure what that will look like. But yeah, I would anticipate it's wholly owned, wholly staffed with their staffing, not ours. And this is a site that they can access remotely. So this group, the company's out of LA, and they remotely access its facility electronically. So yeah, we'll bring that all back when we have all of that information.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric.
You got it. Any other questions? Okay. So for the expansion of Billy Wright, at the June 18th meeting, the board did give staff direction to purchase the 200 acres west of Billy Wright. Staff's presently pursuing professional services for the purpose of making offers on the 200 acres as directed by the board. Some of the considerations that we've run into, I will put a plug here to say that our legal, Emily Hayden, has done an excellent job in giving us advice and things that we've looked at. And so we want to be very sure that when we get into this process and as we unpeel this onion, we actually have everything uncovered. And so with that, the professional services procurement is something that we're going to be investigating and looking at very closely. That shouldn't take too much time. But then upon that, we'll then be looking at the contract language in terms of whether or not we can both represent, not only the authority, but also the sellers of the property and how that looks. And then there are some legal considerations to include that if in fact we have an unwilling seller, we need to go down the condemnation process if the board so chooses, that we would have to complete some environmental work. And so we're looking at all of those those items and considering all of those facts. And then we're hopeful to have, as updates come, we will bring that to you. But we've been working on this diligently since June. And then the final thing that I was going to bring to you.
Eric,
oh, yes.
Okay. So do you need any authority or direction from us today?
No, I have the authority that was given to me in June gives me everything that I need as of right now.
So what about this environmental process?
Mm-hmm.
When
Right.
is it done?
Right.
I'm sorry, Eric, this is Emily Hayden, if I could jump in.
Please.
Director Valenta, it's going to depend on several factors. I hesitate to go into this too deeply right now because of issues related to the condemnation process, if that's something that the board decides to pursue down the road. But the environmental considerations are depending on whether we have willing sellers or not. And again, I want to caution everyone not to discuss the condemnation process at this time. We will
I don't want to discuss the condemnation process. I'm just talking about the environmental review. What triggers it?
The environmental review process may look different depending on how we acquire the property.
Whether one way or the other, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Emily. Okay, and so right before this meeting, I was on a call, and I wanted to share this with you because I think that this is important to note. There is a Senate bill that's currently being considered, and it is S.3984, and it is a bill to provide payments for waste and recycling collection services as allowable expenses under the Paycheck Protection Program and eligible for loan forgiveness under the CARES Act. And so this is something that I feel that when I saw it, I thought of all of you, and I will tell you the TRB, I did not have this information last week before the TRB, but I wanted to make sure that you had the bill number, get it to your staff. I would just recommend anybody in the collection industry, waste and recycling, this might be a form of funding that you all might be able to utilize and tap into.
And Eric, this is Stacy, we can send this to the TRB after the meeting so that they can have it directly as well.
Thank you so much.
Eric?
Yeah.
Yeah, so what kind of process are you looking at or timeline for this procurement, and what really are the next steps for next month that you could bring forward to us possibly?
Yes, Director Valenta, you're referring to the Billy Wright expansion?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
The expansion.
Right. So what the next steps are, we're currently right now in discussions with staff and legal, and When those button up, that could be tomorrow, it could be, into next week. We will then move on, whether or not we're going to have to do a procurement for realty services or not. And so we will retain the realty professional services that we need. And then once we do that, we will look at contract language that hopefully represents both the seller and the authority. And then we will hopefully then at that point entertain by submitting offers. And should the property owners decide to have negotiations and conversations, we will then work through that process. And so for timing, I would, as of right now, I think we're within weeks, not months, for those types of actions. But as we get into this, I know that we've had conversations upon conversations with many people up to this point. And so we're hopeful that we can make this a very solid product as we come back to the board.
So professional procurement, I don't want to talk about this, but professional procurement only takes place if it's unwilling then, correct?
Well, no, the professional services procurement leads to the services that are necessary for the purchase of this property. That includes realty, includes, possibly
okay.
Those types of, those
All
types
right.
of services. And so we could get that done in a matter of days.
All right, so you're talking about the level of professional procurement then?
Correct.
All right, I understand. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, enough. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, Eric. All right, we will, we will move on to quarterly diversion programs update by Kyle Loretto. Information only. Kyle, are you?
Good afternoon, everyone. How are you?
Good.
Let me get this up here. Got a quick presentation for you, just as Eric did. And all right. So yes, this is a second quarter diversion program update for you. And this is a list of the community events that we were unable to host, that the cities and counties weren't able to host during the last several months. These are all canceled due to COVID. A few of these were on school campuses, and schools were closed in Atwater and City of Merced locations, and the others were just closed due to some of the concerns and state regulations at the time. What we do have on the schedule is a few community events coming up. We are in communications with the cities and the counties, trying to see if those are still going to happen. But at this time, they're still on our calendar at the RWA and still being publicized for events. But as we move forward, we will continue to keep in touch with those jurisdictions, and if those get canceled for whatever reason, we will try and get that information out to you as quickly as we can. We also have HHW events still scheduled, one in Los Banos and two at the Highway 59. This weekend is the Highway 59's landfills HHW event. We will be hosting that, and we are planning to move forward with that event. And these are the flyers that are being used on our social media and our website to promote that event. Our mattress program has been going really well so far this year. Highway 59 has collected over 4,600 mattresses, and Billy Wright's collected over 1,500 mattresses. We did receive a grant through the mattress program for those two structures that you see there. Those structures are built to help keep the rain off those, keep the sunlight off them as much as possible, to try to protect those mattresses to make sure they get to the location for recycling the best they can. Residents come in, they drop them off underneath those storage structures, and then our staff will load those into the large trailers, and those will be taken usually about once a month. Those are taken from our facilities.
Hey, Kyle,
Yes, sir.
have you had any problems with those structures turning into a parasail?
No, we have not. They are rebarred to the ground, and so we have not had any problems with those being lifted and taken away.
Okay, thank you.
Last year, I believe it was in October, we got involved with the Carpet Recycling Council, and we began a pilot project out at Highway 59, collecting carpet to be recycled. That is a little different than the mattress. So when that comes in, we only take rolled carpet. Carpet that would come out of a home has to be rolled and clean and dry. We also take the padding, but we don't take any of the nail strips or anything like that. So it has to be clean. Folks who bring that in can drop that off underneath the structure. We did get a grant from them to put in a structure there. That goes into the container, and when that gets full, they send a truck out to take that away. We had our first truck go out in, I believe, February, and it was just over 3 tons of carpeting that has been diverted from landfills out of Highway 59 landfill, and so that was a good thing for us. And it will continue with the project. We've had some little hiccups with the type of material and getting people to drop it off properly. So we're working through those, and as we work through those issues and get everything down, we will eventually work to get that program into Billy Wright. There is no discount so with mattresses, folks can bring those for free. Carpet, there is no free drop off of carpet. It is also it's added into the cost of dumping material at the landfill. It is just a diversion program to get it the actual out of the landfill, and the cost is still there because our staff time to clean it up and move it and everything it takes, because it is a new project. So we're working through that, and as we get moving on that and things get better, we will work with the Carpet Council to do something out of Billy Wright as well. Right now, as I said, 3 tons in almost a little over half a year isn't a lot of material. So as we start get that better and get a better way of getting that material out, we'll do something at Billy Wright as well. We have a mobile app we're working on. I think we've mentioned this before. This is something that the RWA has been working on for quite some time, but we were able to finally get all the data needed to get this going. And actually, I was approved through Apple to get this into their store, and this will be going out, I hope, in August or September. We have a training with the company who is developing this for us in about 2 weeks. Our staff will learn how to maintain this and update it, but an individual can go in, enter their address, and it will tell them what day their service is. They can also get that updated into their calendar, whether it's Google or Outlook, whatever type of calendar they use. It will update that. They can also print a calendar, and it will give them updates that way, saying, hey, tomorrow is your trash day, put your trash out. So very handy mobile app for the residents throughout the county. It also has a waste wizard, so individuals can go in there, put a material, and it will tell them where it goes, whether it goes in the trash, the green waste, or recycling center. So great little app that we're working on, and hope to have that out in the next couple of months and be able to bring that to you. If anyone has any questions, I'll be happy to take those. If not, that concludes my presentation.
I have a question for Kyle, Mr. Chair. This is Silvera. Kyle, so back to the carpet recycling.
Yes, sir.
What's the incentive for people to recycle it? Like
right now, right now is the incentive of just recycling, of just getting it out of the landfill. And so,
do you have any kind of estimations on what you think is actually making, that's rolled and ready, that's actually making it versus what's actually going into landfill, or is it you just only know what we're pulling out?
Right now, right now I can tell you that I can check to see if there's a way we can figure that out. But like I said, we did take over 3 tons so far, which is quite a bit. That entire container full of carpeting. And carpet and fabric and mattresses are something that we really want to take out of landfill because they're kind of bulky. They take up a lot of space, and it really impacts our landfills. And so those are type of materials, fabrics and clothing and those type of things that we want to out of landfills.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay, then Kyle, I have a question. Where does the carpet go? What is the recycled use?
Actually, quite a few things. Carpeting can be used for insulation. It can be used to create large plastic things. I've seen parking stops, the concrete blocks that you see in a parking lot. I've seen those made out of used carpet. There is the flood control bags that you see along the highway that are filled with hay and material like that. I've seen those that are made with old shredded carpet and padding that can be used repeatedly rather than the hay breaking down or the straw breaking down in those materials. So quite a few things can be used with the carpet. I was on a video presentation where they had a list and had a booklet that I'm trying to get that has a lot of the materials that companies are making out of used carpet. But there is a market for the material, and so there is a council, just like the mattress council, that is recycling it. So if we can get it out and get it out of our landfills, which is a great thing, but there is a secondary market for the material.
Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Next, we have item 17, authorize deposit for Rural 21 PG&E interconnection. This is an action item presented by Eric Zetz. Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Fellow board members, item 17 is an action item. Comes before you today to authorize the executive director to issue a deposit amount of up to $133,920 with an escrow agent, Wells Fargo, for the interconnection facilities and distribution upgrades with PG&E associated with the landfill gas to energy project with UC Merced. The total deposit amount for the interconnection is $167,400, of which the authority has already paid $33,480 towards, leaving a remaining deposit amount of $133,920 balance due for the project. Electronic Rule 21, or Rule 21 as it is called, is a tariff that describes the interconnection, operation, and metering requirements for distributed generators that will be connected to the utility's electric system. The landfill gas to energy project is currently in phase 1 as approved by the Regional Waste Management Authority Board. Phase 1 is estimated to be completed by November of 2020. Phase 1 authorizes the construction manager at risk to produce value engineering for the project in order to determine the cost for constructing the project, which is phase 2. Phase 2 will require the approval of the Regional Waste Management Authority Board. This Rule 21 deposit that is before the board today is required by the Memorandum of Understanding between the Merced County Association of Governments and the UC Merced for the landfill gas to energy project. Staff is recommending that the board authorize the executive director to issue a deposit amount up to $133,920 with an escrow agent, Wells Fargo, for the interconnection facilities and distribution upgrades with PG&E associated with the landfill gas to energy project with UC Merced. This concludes staff's presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions of Eric?
There are no hands raised.
Okay, I do have one, Eric. Why are we triggered to put this money into deposit now versus once we have a defined project and down the road?
Correct, right. So the Rule 21, anytime because PG&E's timeline for construction is scheduled months, sometimes almost a year or more in advance of big projects. Whenever you go to PG&E and tell them you're going to connect to their grid, they want an assurance that the work you're doing is truly going to be a project they need to consider. And so the Rule 21 deposit has been something in play with all construction projects that tap into their grid. This was
So I
something that was,
understand why we're doing it. Is it just to get on their books now so we can go when we're ready?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, this is Silvera. So, Eric, I know you sent out an email to all of us, and I'm guessing, I know at least myself and some of my colleagues at the Board of Supervisors got an email from a gentleman questioning this. So we already put the 33,000 has already been deposited. What triggers it to be now 167 total? How do they come up with that number?
So the 167,000 number was determined by the entire leg of the project, the amount of pipeline and the amount of kilowatts that were put into the system from the gas. So this is something that was determined when the MOU was established. And so that dollar amount was determined early on by PG&E. We have a series of deposits that is 20%, 50%, 75%, and 100 that you've got to get to before construction is made. And so what this does, the 33 was getting us to, the 20 or 25%. We are so far along in the timing of when we first applied for the Rule 21 that the 100% of the deposit will be due here shortly. So PG&E has given us an extension to allow us to make that full deposit. Now, should the board not approve phase 2 when that comes to the board, this deposit would be rendered back.
And then my next question is does that escrow account accrue interest?
That's a very good question. I don't know the answer to that. Nav, would you know the answer to that? You know what, Director Silvera, I will find out.
Okay. Well, it's 167,000 that's coming out of your, let's see, I read it. It was the, it's coming out of your capital budget, right? And so
Right.
it's normally if we have that money sitting around in like LAIF or whatever, I know it ain't gaining much, but it's gaining something. They're going to, I don't know. I'd like to know if it's going to gain interest. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll find out and I'll get that to all of the directors.
Okay, any other questions for Eric? No? Okay. Is there a motion to approve?
Laura, motion to approve.
Second, Olivera.
Okay, been moved and seconded. There is no further discussion. Would you call for the vote, please, Joy?
Director Aguilar,
Yes.
Director Espinoza,
No, not at this time.
Director Hogue,
Yes.
Director Lohr,
Yes.
Director McDaniel,
Aye.
Director Murphy,
Yes.
Director Oliveira,
Aye.
Director Silvera,
No.
Director Villalta,
Yes.
motion carries. Thank you.
What was the vote, please?
Seven ayes and 2 noes.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair, this is Eric. May I have a moment to speak?
Sure.
I'm just checking with staff, just to be clear, we have received an answer and the agreement that we have in place says that this amount will not accrue interest.
I'm sorry. This is Emily Heaton. It will accrue interest. It's invested and it will accrue interest.
Okay.
Oh, I read wrong. I apologize. Thank you.
No worries. If that's the only mistake you make this month, we're doing good, Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Emily.
Sure. Okay, we'll move to item 18, contract number 2015-100, agreement for transportation processing of recycling materials. This is a workshop. Eric, you are on.
Hello, Chair.
Okay.
This is Kyle.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Yeah, sorry. I will be presenting this workshop for you today.
Oh, okay.
On Eric's behalf. So let me get my presentation for you, and thank you very much. And fortunately, this presentation is not going to be as short as the last one, but I've got quite a bit of information I want to get with you. And so just one moment. There we go. All right. So yes, today is a workshop. So there'll be no action today. And this is in regards to our transportation and processing recycled material agreement that we currently have with Republic Services. And we're going to discuss the 2-year extension with proposed amendment changes by Republic Services. We're going to go over the history of the agreement, background of the recycling markets, the current contract revenues and cost, the proposed amendment revenue and costs, and some of the unsolicited proposals to compare with that we did receive. All right, so here's the timeline, and this contract started back in 2015 with Republic Services, and this was signed into agreement. In 2018 of March, China instituted China Sword, also referred to as Blue Sky. I'm sure you folks have been told about this, but just as a reminder, in 2018, China decided that they needed to clean up their country and some of the manufacturing that was going on. And so they began shutting down polluting manufacturing companies. And this all stemmed from some embarrassment they felt after the Olympics and some of the comments by the athletes in the area. They also decided to stop purchasing the rest of the world's trash. And by that, I mean the recycling and the contaminated trash that comes with that. So they cut out purchasing almost all recyclable material from the rest of the world. By late 2018, early 2019, that impacted the entire U.S. recycling industry to a point where recycling companies across the country were shutting down. Small, large, medium-sized companies shut down. They lost their markets. They lost the ability to sell their material and weren't able to adjust to the new requirements of cleaner material that was being purchased by China and some other countries. So in late 2018, Republic Services went to every contract they had across the country and asked for a rate increase to help cover the cost of processing the material because there was no value in the actual recycled commodities anymore. In June of 2019, HF&H presented to you, this board, their recommendations. Their recommendation was that the RWA had a very good contract that was doing well for the authority and the jurisdictions participating, and to not give Republic the amendment that they requested. And at the end of the contract, possibly go out to an RFP and see if there was a better or a contract that could be better, more beneficial to the RWA and its jurisdictions. In 2020, RWA started hosting meetings with all the jurisdictions regarding 1383. And in March, we had, going back to the 1383. 1383 is where we informed the cities that recycling was going to be something that was going to be required for everyone. Organic recycling, green waste recycling, municipal recycling of all types would now be required by the state come January 1, 2022. And so what that means is that recycling, that all jurisdictions will have to recycle. And at that point, we would be able to have a contract with a processor for all jurisdictions. So in March of 2020, we received some unsolicited bids from other processors as our current contract was coming to an end. And we met with the participating jurisdictions to let them know that of those unsolicited bids that we received, Republic Services was still offering the best deal. We came to the board in June and asked you to extend a letter to Republic Services to extend our contract with them. Republic responded saying that they would be willing to, but they wanted to do so with the amendments that they had brought back in December of 2018. We met with the participating jurisdictions to discuss what that would look like in June and early July, and explain what the increases would be. And we are now meeting with you folks because our contract is going to expire at the end of August. And again, in January of 2022, SB 1383 makes recycling requirement for all jurisdictions and everyone across the state, really.
Kyle, may I ask a question?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, there's no guarantee with COVID-19 to 2022 they're going to have to enact this. So there's a possibility there could be another 2-year extension.
At this time, we have not received any indication from the state that they are going to delay this in any way.
Yeah, and I don't believe that, just on the record.
So our current contract. So again, it started in 2015, the end of 2015. And in that time, there was some value to that contract. There was a share of the revenue. And so when Republic Services took that material, they processed it, they sold it, the jurisdictions received a portion of that revenue back. That was credited towards your accounts for services at the landfill. And so as you see, throughout the years, those revenues started to increase. And in 2017, we had a really good market. And everyone received quite a bit of money back from their recyclables that they sent to Republic Services. In 2018, with China Sword, the markets started to decrease, and you see those revenues dropped dramatically. And in 2019, you can see that there was just a cost for processing of the material. But overall, so far, even with 2020, if we look at similar costs to processing, each jurisdiction should see either a small revenue or an even value to the cost of this contract. So overall, as FNH had said, the contract is really good for the jurisdictions and should be a zero cost or very minimal cost to each jurisdiction over the 6 years of this contract. So the proposed amendment that Republic sent back to us with our letter, again, was exactly what they offered in 2018. There was no increase in PPI. There was no other increases to it. It is exactly what they offered, which is adding a $103.86 per ton processing fee to switch from a gross revenue to a net revenue offset for any share of revenue to the jurisdiction, and eliminating the contractor's requirement to conduct a material composition study. But we can request it if we'd like. And what that composition study is done, it's done usually once a year, and it is a way for Republic Services to get a breakdown of the type of materials that are coming into their facility to do their calculations. And I'll show you those calculations a little bit in just a moment. So those, the current calculation is done this way. The scrap value, the CRV value, those are calculated through those waste checks. So they'll find out each jurisdiction about how much of each material, whether it's plastics, metals, glass, cardboard, mixed paper, they have a percentage of within a month. And then they'll use those calculations with each month based off the material per ton, and use that to calculate what the value of that material is. They'll take the revenue share from that portion, include the transportation costs and so forth, to eventually get a cost to the jurisdiction. This actually came from one of the jurisdictions for their month. And so that month, it cost that jurisdiction $15,000 for recycling services. So if we take those exact same numbers, the exact same number of tons, the value of the material, and put it into the new calculation, this would be the proposed calculation. And so what we see here is instead of the jurisdictions receiving their revenue share at the beginning of the calculation, it is down at the bottom of it. So if there's any value left after everything is paid for, the jurisdiction would receive 60% of that. And so doing that calculation, instead of $15,000, we come up with about a $36,000 cost to the jurisdiction that month. So in that month, it was about a doubling of the value or the cost of the services. So here's a comparison over last year. So if we took all the tonnage, all the market values, everything was exactly the same under the contract with the different models. You'll see here that each jurisdiction would have paid between $16 and $20 per ton for the service, and under the new proposed would be between $56 and $66 per ton. The difference is about $40 to $45 per ton per jurisdiction.
Kyle?
Yes, sir.
Why on the tonnage is, and not to pick on Merced City, but explain to me, even in the calculations, why our costs are $260,000 per year additional, and they are $294,000. Those were the figures that were given to me at the last meeting. And why we're paying $66.39 and they're paying $56.27.
Well, going back through, I know you asked me this question before, and going back through the list of materials, it seems that the city of Los Banos is collecting more recyclable material than the city of Merced. But the types of materials that are being collected have a lesser value. So the city of Merced, they're collecting a bit more material that has a CRV value, which is a higher value than scrap material. And in Los Banos, it's more of the general plastics and general metals rather than the CRV material. And I can only guess that is because the folks in Los Banos are actually recycling that themselves, would be my only guess. And so they're taking it to a recycling center and getting that cash back themselves. Again, those are just guesses on my side. But looking at what I saw, the city of Los Banos seems to be doing, no disrespect to the city of Merced, but doing a little bit better job of recycling in general. It's just the types of materials have a lesser value on the market.
Okay, I'm going to need a full analysis of that for the council.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Sure thing. So we were asked that if other jurisdictions were participating, how that would affect the cost to each of the current participating jurisdictions. So I looked to see what Atwater and Dos Palos, their total tonnage that they had come into the landfill last year, and took a percentage of that as recyclables, which is about 29%, which is what the other jurisdictions are doing. And so I took 29% of their total tonnage and got a recyclable tonnage, and used one of the calculations from the cities to run their numbers for the full year in both 2019, the current market calculation, as well as proposed. And so you'll see that theirs are running quite a bit more in that calculation, but it doesn't change what the other jurisdictions are seeing. So City of Merced was paying $17, and in the other calculation the same. Well, City of Merced, they're slightly different, a few cents. I think there was a rounding error in my formula. But County Merced, 1686 and 6360, 1686, 6360, and the same with Los Banos, 2083 and 6639. And you'll see those don't change. So no matter how many jurisdictions we add, it doesn't affect what others would pay. Everybody pays for the amount of tons and the type of material that they send to Republic to be processed.
Question, Mr. Chair. This is Silvera.
Yes, go ahead.
I guess your slides here, I get the part where, I think Stacy mentioned it last month, that, listen, the more tons you introduce to the system, it costs X amount to process those tons. I guess what I can't follow, and I'm not getting your numbers, is on the current slide that's up on the screen. Mm-hmm. How is Atwater 255 and Dos Palace 237? Is that because, how is that number so much smaller than the 2083, the 1686, and the 1707? Like that.
It's based on the amount of material that they bring in. And again, those were numbers that I had to just kind of pull from what we have. We don't know what the breakdown of their material would be. So I had to use one of the other cities' calculations. If one of them were to join, then we would have Republic do an assessment of the type of material coming in. We get a breakdown of what type of material is coming in, and then it would then they'd calculate that based off the market value. These were just numbers I had to pull out of just a number of tonnage. And then I chose one of the cities to run their numbers with. So those aren't accurate. That wouldn't be what they would actually pay. What I really wanted to show is that no matter what numbers we put in there, it's not going to change what the other jurisdictions would be paying. So I mean, you can't. I would ask you not to hold me to those costs if those jurisdictions were to join.
No, I get that. I get that, Kyle. But I have to tell you that, like, I'm sorry, I'm not following any of these numbers right now. The part I did take out of this is that it doesn't change. You're adding more tons. It's just adding more tons, so there's going to be additional costs associated with more tons. But I'm not following this slide at all. It makes no sense to me. And I'm not saying that it doesn't make sense, that you haven't put a lot of thought into it. I guess in the future, maybe I could see this ahead of time and be able to look at it and try to understand. I just can't figure it out.
And if you'd like, I'd be happy to get on a video conference with you, and or I can even send you our current, what the calculations that we get from our public services on a quarterly basis, so you can see how it. I mean, it's a very large spreadsheet, and actually has the materials broken down, and we can go over that, and maybe that can help explain this a little better. I'd be happy to set up a time where we can go over that, or what I'll do is after this meeting is I'll get one of the last year's spreadsheet and send that to you for you to review. And if you'd like to get together and discuss it, I'd be happy to do so.
No, I appreciate that. I just, like I said, I'm sure if you walk me through it, I could understand it. But right now, it's just making no sense. No,
I understand. I do. It's a very, you're right. It's very complicated, and this is a very small portion of the spreadsheet. But again, this was just to illustrate that cost does not change for jurisdictions based on the amount of material that gets put into the system.
Kyle?
Yes, sir.
Yes. So this is a 2-year extension, correct?
They have asked for a 2-year extension, yes, and that is to carry us until 2083 comes into play, and as we move along, I'll discuss why we feel that 2-year discussion or extension would be a good thing for us.
Okay, so what I'd like to do is work on the Merced model, so we can reduce the cost of our recycling. And does that mean that the size of the recycling can has to stay in place for the next 2 years, or can we have a smaller recycling can and urge citizens to recycle more on their own for the diversion, therefore reducing the cost for us?
That would be, the size of your can would be something that you would discuss with your hauler based off your contract. But again, education to folks is a very good thing, and I think that may be why you have so much recycled material, is that the education is a good education program. You know, about the CRV portion of it, you know, that's something we can discuss on how that could help affect Los Banos.
Right, because you know it just not to pick on Merced, and I'm not, because I like Mike Murphy, but I don't understand that you know they're only $34,000 higher than we are for a town that's twice the size, and so I think that's going to be the bone of contention of how we could reduce our recycling costs and make it proportional to a city twice our size.
We definitely could sit down with your staff and your hauler and see if there's something we can do education wise to help you folks work on that. You know, adding more material, doing a better job of recycling. I don't know if that's going to help adjust the cost, but you know, absolutely changing the type of material. But that would mean maybe your residents giving up that CRV if that's what they're doing, is actually taking it to the facility. Now, if they're just throwing that into the trash as opposed to recycling it, yes, definitely we can educate them to put that into the recycling bin, and that would definitely help the city out on the cost.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one last comment. It seems like because we're doing a good job, we're being punished, and that's basically what it looks like. And I can't fathom taking that to the citizens.
Right.
Okay.
I understand.
I'm sorry. Go ahead with your presentation.
Absolutely, sir.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned, we had some unsolicited proposals. So we were contacted by 3 other agencies who were interested in taking our recycled materials. And taking in consideration their tipping cost and the tonnage that we receive annually from the jurisdictions, you can see that proposal 1 was about 469,000. Proposal 2 was 634,000. Proposal 3 was 1.9 million, and Republic Services was 1.2 million. And that's strictly based off what the tipping processing fee for the material to come into their door and to be processed. Now, some had some adjustments. The first one had a education rebate that we got a few dollars back, but they also charged us to landfill any of the residual. And so overall, for the number of tons that we sent to them, there was an increased cost of $71,000. Proposal 3 and Republic Services both had the revenue share portion, or excuse me, where they sold the sharing of the cost through the share of material. And so based off their markets and what they presented to us, Proposal 3 came back with about $900,000 in value, and Republic had just about $9,500 in value for the sale of the material. Transportation costs for the Proposal 1 was $668,000, 2 was $445,000, and 3 was $500,000. Republic Services did not change their transportation costs, so it would stay the same, other than the annual CPI that's there, and so their cost was about $460,000. So adding that all up, the Proposal 1 was about 1.2 million, Proposal 2 was just over $1 million, and Proposal 3 was 1.5 million, and we get Republic at the $730,000. So looking at these 3 proposals based off the material we had, you can see why we brought Republic back to you as a possible extension to the contract. It just seems to be the best value. Now, each proposer has, you know, after we've just told them that we were looking at doing an extension, they have offered some adjustments and some changes to what they originally proposed to us. But even with those, none of them really got below $900,000 in their cost to us. So, but even with that, we still feel that Republic at this time would be the best for the extension. So it's asked what some options are. So first option, of course, is to authorize a 2-year extension with the proposed amendments as presented by Republic Services. You could direct the authority to go out to an RFP and see what the market would actually bring to a contract. And based off those proposals that we did receive, we don't expect that RFP to come back with any better contract. Individual jurisdictions that are participating could go out and RFP themselves and see if they could get a better contract for their individual materials. Or you could just landfill the material and stop your recycling programs altogether. Now, we highly recommend not doing that. CalRecycle has said that that isn't a good thing. They would not look favorable on the jurisdiction that does so. Also, if you do stop a recycling program and then when 1383 kicks in, you have to go back to doing recycle, it's very confusing and very expensive for the hauler to stop recycling and then go back to recycling, and could be a cost to your community in both the cost of the service, but also in the type of material and the recycling that you're doing. So that's something we do would definitely discourage against. Although it's a workshop, we do have our recommendations. It would be to authorize us to do an extension with Republic Services for 2 years. What that will do is, with 1383 coming into play, we also encourage ask that you encourage all the jurisdictions to meet the CalRecycle requirements. So AB 939, 1016, those are the older ones, but AB 341, which is commercial recycling, AB 1826, which is commercial organic recycling, and upcoming SB 1383. And to make sure that each jurisdiction is meeting those by January 1st, 2022, and make available recycling, green waste, organic recycling to all residents, all multifamily, all commercial businesses. In doing so, at the end of this 2-year extension, we then have material coming in from all facilities. We have an idea of the amount of material that we are getting, and then we ask that you would direct us to do an RFP based off that, and with all the participating jurisdictions, to get the jurisdictions in the RWA the best possible contract that we can get. So if you have any other questions, I'd be happy. I'm sure Eric would be happy, or Stacy would be happy to answer any questions that you have. We hope to possibly bring something to you next month for action. But we'll be happy to discuss and talk with you and answer any questions that you have prior to that, and discuss this for as long as need be, for folks to feel comfortable with our recommendations.
Any other questions for Kyle or Eric?
Well, Chair, this is Silvera.
Yes.
I'm looking at Exhibit F in our packet, and I'm not following that one either. It has dates of 2013, 14, and 15 on there, and I'm just kind of wondering, is that what's all that about? Because you didn't cover that in your presentation.
Give me just a moment to pull that up on my computer so I can see what you're looking at.
It's the last page of the packet.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle, would you like us to pull that up on the screen?
Actually, just give me a moment. I have it here.
Okay.
And that was Exhibit
F. It's the very last page.
Okay.
It's an example.
Mm-hmm.
And so as part of what they're proposing is not only they want a 2-year extension, but they want adjustments based on a factor of 80%, 70% CPI, and 30% motor fuel change.
Yes, those are what's currently in there now.
That's what's currently in our current contract.
Yes, and the verbiage changes because of the way it is calculated. Currently, it's calculated off the gross revenue, and we're switching it to the net. So what that does is it changes it to the calculation of 80% off the net.
And so what are we talking about dollars-wise a year total across the 3 jurisdictions that are recycling? How much more is it going to cost us? I know in your slideshow there, you showed us the total dollar amount, but that's the total dollar is in addition
total-
to what we already paid.
The total increase is 632,000.
And I know that you recommended highly that we don't go with just doing away with the recycle program.
Mm-hmm.
But what's the risk? What's the reward? If we do away with it and we put it in the landfill, it seems like it's cheaper per ton for us to put it in the landfill than it is to recycle it. But then the long arm of the state's going to come in, and what kind of fines are we talking about? You know, are we talking about their $10,000 a day fines? Is it $100 a day fine? I mean, that really helps a person make a decision if we have an idea of what we're looking at here.
So Kyle, if you can maybe let me jump
Sure
in.
thing. Sure thing.
Director Silvera, excellent question. We get into a position when a jurisdiction considers doing away with their recyclable collections or processing, that they then get in line with dealing with the state. And the state's going to deal with them through enforcement individually. Now, Assembly Bill 939 required in the 90s, I think it was 1990, that you had a series of steps which you had to have residential recyclable material collected, diverted, and processed in the order of 50% of the amount of material generated from your residents. So that was scheduled to go up to 75%, and that's where we're at now. So if you do away with that program, you end up getting into a position of being in line with the state with enforcement. Now, the state came with 1383 discussions that we had, where they have informed us that in Merced County, there are jurisdictions that have not implemented a program to satisfy the requirements of Assembly Bill 939, Assembly Bill 1826, Assembly Bill 341. And so what they'll do is they'll use the enforcement, and this was actually, Rob Hilton had said this with HF&H to the board in June of 2019, where it is such that they will come to a jurisdiction and they will enforce the measure of which they have that you have not complied with, and they'll use the fining abilities of $50 per day to up to $10,000. I'm sorry, $50 per event and up to $10,000 per day. So that's the risk that the state could use for any individual jurisdiction. And what HF&H told the individual jurisdictions is that right now we had 3 jurisdictions that looked like they were really doing everything right. Those are the 3 participating jurisdictions, a part of this Recycling Republic contract. Outside of those 3 jurisdictions, there were concerns. And so HF&H has let them know about programs they need to implement to continue to conform with the state law. So if we look at a agency that wants to landfill their material, I know Kyle put that in the slide, we would strongly encourage you and any jurisdiction not to get into the position of landfilling recyclable material, because you will immediately get and garner the state's measure of enforcement. And we just don't know what that would entail.
Great answer.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Has anybody have their hand raised?
I'm sorry, Mr. Pereira.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Eric. So the 3 jurisdictions are recycling. I don't know if they would want to, but I know I certainly would, even with an individual meeting, to have either Kyle or yourself or both meet with the city of Los Banos to discuss this further, so we fully understand. So when it comes to the council, we can present this to the council and then to our citizens, and understand completely how the workings. And I'm with Mr. Silvera. I don't understand a lot of this too, and it just, I said, it just doesn't make sense to me the dynamics of how one jurisdiction to the other, and the cost of recycling for doing a good job as opposed to not doing such a good job. And I'm going to need a lot more information before this. I know you're coming on August 5th to present to our city council, but maybe the three jurisdictions who are recycling would like to talk about this, and if not, I certainly would.
Yeah, Director Villalta, we would absolutely entertain an opportunity to speak with you and your staff, any staff, and that would go for any jurisdiction. We have held individual jurisdiction meetings, as Kyle has mentioned, and we will continue to do so. I would just say that as we get closer, and this is a message really for all of the board, as we get closer to trying to comply with the SB 1383, which is the mandatory organics diversion and processing law, the authority is going to need the assistance of all of the jurisdictions such that flow control of that material garners a greater impact to our system, so for everybody's benefit. So again, thank you for that comment, Director Villalta, and we would be happy to meet with you and your staff and any of the other directors and their staff as well.
Are we also going to talk about tipping fees at some point?
We are not prepared today to talk about tipping fees, but we are happy to have any conversation on that.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, we need to stick with the agenda. This is akin to eating a skunk, unfortunately, but we've got to make a decision. What's the will of the board?
Well, today is just a workshop. Today is just a workshop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
there's no action today.
You're right. Sorry about that.
So no, we today was just a workshop. It's a lot of information, I understand. I know Board Member Silveira has quite a few questions, and we'll be happy to meet with the City of Los Banos. When we get off here, I will work on setting up a meeting with the City of Los Banos, and I'll send some of the documentation over to Board Member Silveira, and if he has interest in meeting with Eric and I, we'll be happy to set something up with him to discuss it further as well.
And Kyle, Mr. Chair, if we could, I would like to recommend that we have a meeting that we can have all the participating jurisdictions be part of. I know we've done the one-on-one, and we can continue to do that if that's the preference, but perhaps having one meeting that Director Villalta and his staff, and if it's Director Murphy, and his staff, or some combination of, as well as Director Silveira or any of the other supervisors and their staff, that we can, I think having a conversation where everyone can hear each other's questions might be useful.
Okay. Well, so we'll go back and at the Board of Supervisors, I guess, and kind of talk about that. And if anybody wants to join Supervisor Silveira, then we'll be in touch and let you know. And then maybe the City of Merced can make that determination with what Director Murphy and their council wants to do as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stacy.
All right.
Mr. Chair, I still got a few more questions. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
When we talk about the organic foods, is like, how many cans are we going to end up with? Is that something, Eric, that we're going to end up putting into, like, the green waste can will be like my lawn clippings and food waste, or are we going to end up now? I have 3 cans now. I'm going to end up with 4 cans, 5. And I know that I'm saying it kind of tongue in cheek, but seriously, what is the process there?
No, you are, Director Silveira, you are absolutely on the point with this, and that is the conversations that HF&H had with each of the individual jurisdictions, telling them that if they're going to comply with a food waste diversion, they're going to have to look at their capital budget and see if they don't have a green bin right now to put food waste in, they're going to have to budget for that to put that out there. Or if they are using an existing green bin right now for yard clippings, we've got to determine, now we're getting into Senate Bill 1383 conversation, but we've got to determine what the end, where it goes, right? So if you put your food waste with green waste, and then it's got to be commingled together to go to a spot, that could or could not be an issue. And I say could or could not because the anaerobic digester that the board approved us to continue conversations with, that anaerobic digester requires a commingling of food and green waste. That's what it needs. Whereas if we look at the Highway 59 site, we're going to have to make a determination on what that material recycling processing plant looks like. Is it going to be something that takes in both streams, or is it going to be something that needs to be separated out? All of those they have varying costs to what they look like. So to answer the question for a jurisdiction today, right now, is that as long as there's an end place to put that food material, they should be able to commingle their food waste with their green waste bin, so long as the hauler is able to collect both and the receiver, the processing plant, is able to receive both. Otherwise, you have to have an individual food waste bin. I don't anticipate that happening for Merced County. I came from the city of Sunnyvale. Sunnyvale had individual food waste bins and receptacles, both in business and residential, and they had the trucks that were individually separated out to put those streams into individual compartments. I don't anticipate those capital costs will be something that our jurisdictions will be able to do here. So we are going to try to be very creative on how we handle what the authority ultimately ends up having in way of a processing plant to receive this material that complies and also assists the jurisdictions as what they have now in the field and what will help them going forward.
Thank you. And then my last question, or it's more of a comment, and something I would like us to consider as part of this is, the way that I see it is there's 3 jurisdictions that are helping to meet the diversion goals of whatever one was in 1990, and now we're at 75% or whatever it is, whatever the Assembly Bill number was. Is this something that the regional waste management authority, is it something that they pick up the cost of this recycling? It just, I don't know. I'm looking at it from, the way that I understand it as the county, we pass these costs on in the increased rate that the contractor will ask us for. But like if, for example, and I don't know how it works in the city of Merced because they pick up their own trash, but like in the city of Las Vegas, that, I'm looking at one total says, under the new one, they're going to be $171,903. Can they pass that cost on to their ratepayers without doing a 218 process? That part I'm not sure. So I still have a lot of questions on it. I know that we're running out of time as far as when our contract is up and when we need to try to negotiate a new contract with Republic. I still think that if we're going to move forward, they're probably the best choice just because I saw the numbers that you guys showed in the presentation earlier of those unsolicited bids from outside other groups. But I want to make a decision that's right for everybody. And I look forward to some one-on-one so that I can better understand some of these numbers. Thank you guys for the presentation.
Thank you.
Eric? Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, just one last comment and question. It says, and Stacy, could you please just direct me if I'm at the appropriate time? I would also like to have at some point a future agenda item on the tipping fees. That's number one. And for Mr. Silvera, Scott, the cost is $260,000 a year for Los Banos. Thank you.
It's an additional 171 over what you're paying.
No, we were quoted $260,000 a year for 2 years last month.
So let me just speak about the quotes. These numbers that you see before you are based on the 2019 materials. COVID-19 has spawned something different now where cardboard is now a higher value. And so as these streams go up, your revenue sharing agreement changes these numbers. So just I caution that these numbers are subject to change based upon revenues received from commodities. And Director Villalta, I will absolutely work to present an informational item workshop on the authority's tipping fees for the board.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments or questions?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, this is Stacy. I just want to clarify and to Director Volta's request for an agenda item. As you know, this is through our policy for agenda item requests to be on the August agenda to discern if there is enough majority of the board's support for staff putting work into developing a presentation for discussion or some action at that time. So I just want to clarify that it's exactly the same policy as Los Banos. In fact, I think that's where we got the original form. So I just want to be clear that the item that will be in August will be a vote of the board to direct staff to bring back, some kind of a discussion.
Yeah,
that
right.
can occur, but there can't be an action on any particular part of a tipping fee unless there's board support to do so.
No, I understand that. Thank you,
Okay.
Stacy, for clarifying.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.
All right. So we'll go to the next item. I don't have my, I'm mobile now. So is it Executive Director's report?
It is. And if Mary Michael, I can get a screen share. Can I do that? Oh, I can do it myself. Can't I? Yes.
Yes.
I'm going to be very brief because I know that we have, why is that not showing? Yes. I'm hoping you can see these pictures. This is the extent of what I wanted to show. Everything that was in my executive director's report from last week has been covered in some fashion by the staff today. So I don't have any additional, anything additional to add other than I just wanted to show you the progress to our front office lobby project. These were right before the meeting started. As this should look very different. This wall that you're looking at is actually where the pink cabinet, the pink counter used to be, and that awkward angle. So now we're going to have a straight across counter. This whole area that you see that's open is going to be a ballistic window. And then this door area that you see to the left is going to be the controlled access ballistic entrance as well. And then all of the basically wall that you see right now is also ballistic. So on schedule. I was just really excited to see this progress. So I wanted to show you all too. It'll look very different. Whenever you're able to come in again, this is going to be a very different experience. So thank you all for the support in previous items to make this project a reality. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that any directors might have.
Well, congratulations to staff for doing a good job so that Stacy didn't have to add any more information.
Yeah.
Any questions of Stacy? All right, then we'll go to the next item, which should be director's reports. Any directors have a report?
There are no hands raised, Mr. Chair.
Well, thank you for
I'm
that.
sorry. Director Lord just put her hand up.
Sure, go ahead, Director Lord.
Thank you, and I apologize, a little bit slow to the raising hand piece. I have a limited supply of free cloth face coverings. If anyone in the City of Merced area is interested in obtaining free cloth face coverings, please let me know. And for other districts and other cities, if you're interested in getting some free cloth face coverings, please let me know as well, and I'll connect you to my source.
Okay, thank you for that. And any other business to come before the meeting, Stacy?
None from me, other than I just realized this is a 2-year anniversary of the date of me assuming this role. So, yeah, I mean, technically it was the interim role, but it was 2 years ago today. So, thank you all again for your comments.
Well, happy anniversary, honey.
Thank you.
All right. Then with that, we will adjourn the meeting.